Have you seen this man? This man is a pot stirrer, a well-known pot stirrer here on BookTube and the book world in general. He's also one of the most interesting, provocative, entertaining people on BookTube. Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to a response video to a video that Kieran did over at KD Books, which is essentially, I think is titled, BookTube, We Have a Toxic Positivity Problem. And it kind of deals with why he thinks there is what he thinks of, or what he considers to be toxic positivity on BookTube, Bookstagram, and BookTok. Now, I can only really speak to BookTube because this is where I spend my time. This is my social media, foray into the world of books. Kieran is far more knowledgeable about the other platforms in which books are discussed than I am, so my comments and my discussion will strictly speaking be about BookTube. So if I could summarize and break down what Kieran said in his video is, he essentially says that the toxic positivity that exists on, I'm going to say BookTube, is related to the fact that the most popular kind of videos are haul videos in which people just hold up a book and say something generally positive. That a lot of these videos are made by, and a lot of times he suspects that people holding those books up and showing them, saying something positive about them, are doing it to gain access, as a form of access journalism, to gain access to free books and arcs and a connection with the publisher so that they have these free books that they can talk about, and that this then is contributing to an air of inauthenticity that exists in, the social media book world. I don't think any of those things that he said are untrue. I would agree that all of those things are true. But what I would say is that I think here, at least on BookTube and among channels that I think I subscribe to and watch the most, that this probably isn't as true as we might think of it as being true on the bigger platforms or perhaps with the bigger channels. And maybe that's what Kieran means. It's these big channels that have gone in for this form of access journalism to get their hands on free books and free arcs and those kind of things. And it's this kind of, parasitic relationship or symbiotic relationship that exists where these certain books get a lot of attention, therefore they make lots of sales, therefore the publishers seek out those influencers to give them free books because they know that will lead to, positive mentions and lots of sales and so on. And I think there is some truth to that, but I don't think I would include, like I said, most of the channels that I follow here. I do think there is a possibility there, and I do think there is some risk involved in that. So I thought, when he talked about this, one of the first things I did, being, paranoid narcissist, I suppose, is I thought, is he talking to me? Is this something where he's saying this about me? Now, of course, Kieran is not talking to me, even though, we do have a long-standing beef, apparently, which, surfaces from time to time. Is Kieran talking about me? Of course he's not, but really what I'm thinking is this something that I do or I engage in? And as soon as I started thinking about that, I thought there's no way you can talk about this without, kind of setting yourself up perhaps as being a virtuous example of a booktuber. So I really kind of struggled with how to phrase this and how to talk about this. So what I would say about myself on BookTube and when I review books is that, generally speaking, I think, yes, most of the books I review positively, particularly if I do a standalone book review. If I do, a review of a book as a part of a wrap-up or in relationship to the BookTube prize, then you're more likely to see me say negative things about a book. For instance, with the BookTube prize this year, I read The Bee Sting, by Paul Murray, which I didn't like, and I said some negative things in that wrap-up. I read Northwoods by Gregory Mason, which a lot of people liked, and I said some negative things about that. I think probably in terms of single book review videos, the only one in which I've been really negative that was a single book review video would be the video I made about Cormac McCarthy's one of his two last novels, The Passenger, which I have some fairly negative feelings about, and I shared those. And then there's also my, takedown of Gone with the Wind. So I do have some negative videos out there, but, I do think that for the most part, I try to avoid being too negative about books. So it's not that I'm worried about hurting the feelings of the authors. This is one of the things that, that Kieran brought up, that, perhaps, people do this because they're worried about, hurting the feelings of the authors on the off chance the author sees their review. It's not that. And for me, I think the reason why I'm more likely to be positive than negative is that there are two things that I think about. One is just the old saying, you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. So generally speaking, if there's a book that I've read that I didn't like, I will say very little about it. In part because I don't want to spend my time, going through a book I didn't think was entirely worthwhile and putting that negative opinion out there. I just don't always think that's something that has to be done, even though, from time to time I don't mind doing it. And the other thing is that I realize, and this is something that Kieran pointed out, kind of from the other point of view, I think, I realized that, since reviewing books is subjective, we all kind of establish our set of criteria, which we think makes a good book or a bad book, and we use that set of criteria to evaluate every book. So if we're being as objective as possible, that's what we do. But still, in creating that set of criteria, that's pretty subjective. So since there is this subjectivity in reviewing books, I am hesitant to be overly negative about a book because I'm aware that this is just in a sense my opinion. And, I do feel that some respect is owed to the author of books for the effort that goes into it. If I feel like that effort wasn't there, that they've been, disdainful of their audience, as I think is true with McCarthy and The Passenger, then I will point that out. But for the most part, I don't want to, say negative things about books because I do appreciate the work that goes into most books. Have I had feedback from authors about reviews? I think really only one. In one case, I've had an author, I believe it to be the actual author, leave a comment on one of my review videos. But for the most part, no. Have I gotten free books from publishers and authors? I've only ever gotten 2 free books from publishers and authors. Or actually, in both cases, it was from publishers. And I did review both those books positively. I think both of those books were great. One was The Secrets of Heartwood Hall by Katie Lumsden. Her first novel published. I thought it was great. And the other was James, which, I didn't seek out a free copy of either. Really happy and proud to have both. But the other was James. And I just made a video about how, Percival Everett had become my new fanboy author, my new kind of author who I was just obsessed with reading their works about, and the publisher contacted me and asked me if I wanted an advanced copy of James. Those are the only 2 times I've gotten free books, which led me to joke on Kieran's video, I must be doing something wrong. I'm not getting free books. Oh, I've also been negative about Sally Rooney's books, the 2 that I've read. But so, I do wonder, and I did wonder to a certain extent, when I got those books, was that going to influence my review? Well, I think in both cases, no. I think, if you take a consensus, which Kieran talked about, you'll find that those books are really well reviewed, that most people really like those books, which then kind of brings me to another thing. And I wanted to relate this specifically to James. I think James is the most positively, critically reviewed book that I've seen on BookTube really ever, even more positively reviewed than Barbara Kingsolver's Demon Copperhead last year. That James is almost universally praised. And I do wonder, and this is something Kieran brought up, is if you see other people reading a book and saying great things about it and positive things about it, do you go into reading that book only looking for the good things and not looking for the bad things? I do think that that's possible. Now, again, in the case of James, I think that the book is worthy of the reviews it's been getting. But I do think that's possible, and I do see how that could be a problem with this kind of toxic positivity, with people just saying positive things about books so they can gain access to free books, so they can review books briefly, whether they've read them or not. And according to Kieran, that happens, and I'm sure it does, in order to get more free books. And it kind of creates this feedback loop, I guess, which creates this positivity for books that maybe are not worthy of it. And he's absolutely right in saying that not everybody is going to like all the same things. As a matter of fact, if that were true, then BookTube, I assume BookTop, Bookstagram would be far less interesting places. And maybe it's less common here, I think, on BookTube because our videos are longer form videos. And therefore, it's if we were, I think we were being disingenuous if we were universally praising all books, as the implication is it happens perhaps on Instagram and on BookTok or on certain books. that happens on Instagram Book Talk. And I think it would be the boring, repetitive nature of that would be far more obvious here because the videos are longer, and maybe in the shorter form it doesn't seem to be as oppressively boring. So I'm not sure what I've said in regard to Kieran's point of view or what he said, but I do think that it's a potential problem. What I will say is, this is what I was going to say. I think there is a potential risk in seeking out free books from publishers over and over again, because I think it is possible then for that access that you get to, as Kieran implies, to influence your opinion about those books. Now, I don't know of anybody channel that I follow and whose videos I watch regularly, and I know several of them who get books from publishers all the time, and I don't think they're being inauthentic when they praise a book. For most of them I've seen, I got this, they'll say something like, I got this book from the publisher, and then they'll go on to give a mediocre or a negative review of the book. I don't think I follow any channels that just praise every single book that comes out, even if they got a free copy. But I do think there's a definite danger there, and I do think that's something that for me, I like the fact that I don't get free books very often, other than those two, because I think the temptation is to let that free book influence your review in a more positive way. Anyway, there you go. There are my thoughts about this issue of toxic positivity on BookTube, at the very least, on book social media, and whether or not it makes what we do here seem inauthentic. I hope I addressed the issues there, Kieran. Anyway, I'll leave a link to this video down below. Look forward to your comments in the comment section below, and as always, thank you for watching.